As it's now 1:30, I'd like to warmly welcome all of you to this special session to introduce us all to the new version of the IOMC Toolbox. For those of you that haven't been with us in the committee previously and are here just for this open session, my name is Kay Williams. I work for the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, and I'll be moderating the session today. And I'd like to hand over now to our first of the keynote addresses, and delighted to welcome Jerome Stuckey, who is the Chief of Materials and Chemical Management Division at UNIDO. Over to you, Jerome.
Thank you, Kay, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. I would like to start by reminding all of us that industrial chemicals are in our everyday life. We are surrounded by them. They are in every manufactured product, and they are central to our modern lives. And the production and consumption of chemicals is growing fast. It's growing the fastest in developing countries and emerging economies. Actually, in 2020, a third of the global chemical consumption was in developing countries. Unfortunately, this higher chemical consumption also increases the environmental and social burden for developing countries, where the capacity to deal with such substances is still lacking. If we couple that with climate change impact, the improper management of these hazardous substances can have catastrophic and long-term costs to our health, our environment, and our economies. So strengthening the capacities for the sound management of chemicals is critical. And with this background, I would like to welcome all of you to the launch event of the IOMC Toolbox at this OECD Chemicals Biotechnology Committee for its 50th anniversary. Now, over the last decades, hundreds of tools and guidance documents to implement the strategic approach to the international chemicals management, or SAICM by its acronym, were produced, developed. Unfortunately, as a result, it can be challenging to find the most appropriate tool to address a specific national issue. And hence, in response, our efforts would go to waste. All these efforts to develop these tools and documents would go to waste if they cannot reach actually the target audience. And to address this issue, international organizations working on sound chemicals management have come together and developed the IOMC Toolbox. IOMC stands for the Inter-Organization Program for the Sound Management of Chemicals. And the IOMC Toolbox is an openly accessible web-based platform that offers solutions for country-specific issues related to the management of chemicals. And today, during this session, you will hear from my colleagues from different organizations who will give you information on the IOMC updated schemes and toolkits, as well as on country experiences using the toolbox. Finally, you will also get an overview of our activities, as well as the collaboration opportunities in the field of chemical management. In the end, it's our common goal to provide technical support to countries and businesses to strengthen and promote new policies, sustainable business models, and innovative technologies for the sound management of chemicals. I would like to highly encourage you to check our website, the Toolbox website, and please do share knowledge that you will gain from these different schemes and toolkits around you, whether at work or at home, because toxic chemicals and pollutions affect all of us. I wish you a fruitful session and hopefully a lot of inspiration along the way. And in the end, I would like to I would really look forward to seeing the changes that can be done thanks to the IOMC Toolbox. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our donor, the European Union, as well as our partners from the IOMC group, FAO, ILO, UNEP, UNITAR, WHO, and of course, OECD for the much needed collaboration and joint effort in organizing this event. Thanks a lot to all of you, and I wish you a fruitful session.
Thank you very much indeed. I think that was a very clear introduction. I'd like to now move over to a video. There will be an introductory video with the updates of the IOC Toolbox. Would it be possible for the video to be presented? Thank you very much. Thank you.
We are here to talk about the IOMC Toolbox, which is a web-based guide to international resources for decision-making in chemicals management.
The Toolbox provides the unique opportunity to find all tools developed by international organizations dealing with public health aspects and chemicals in one place.
The IOMC Toolbox identifies appropriate actions and guidance for a number of areas of chemicals management.
Whether you're looking at pesticides or GHS or industrial chemicals management schemes or public health, you're able to use this toolbox to navigate through various elements that are found in these different kinds of schemes and access the IOMC documents.
Through this toolbox development and the joint work with our colleagues, we found new ways of presenting it, modern ways, smooth way to... I think what is really important to get the message across. You don't want to have like a manual that is just standing in a bookshelf. You really want to have an interaction.
What the Toolbox does, it's a custom, tailored approach. It takes into account the resources available in the country, so you as a user make your own assessment and identify if you consider your resources to be low, medium, or high.
De manera que, de acuerdo con las necesidades del país y los recursos disponibles, tú puedes hacer uso de la herramienta o de las opciones que el Toolbox te ofrece para un sistema bajo o medio de implementación.
The Toolbox is a must-have for everyday activities and is customized, adaptable, flexible. So you don't need to start the sequence from the start, but you can start from where you are as a country for a particular scheme.
Ha sido muy útil porque nos ha permitido identificar todos los elementos técnicos, funcionales y administrativos que deberíamos tener en cuenta para el desarrollo y operación de un sistema de esta naturaleza.
Developing countries, countries in transition, even developed countries to utilize this tool. There's quite a lot of resource and it makes decision making for chemicals management very handy and enjoyable.
Thank you very much. We're now going to go on to various presentations by the different organizations within the IOMC, and I'm now going to pass over to, is it Valérie at the OECD? Over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see my screen. So I will now make a very brief presentation on the IOMC Toolbox and how to use it. As you can see on the home page, on the top banner, you have a possibility to see the management schemes. You also have a news page, help page, and contacts. Also, there is the possibility to change the language. You have 3 translations, English, Spanish, and French. There is a little bit of content that is not translated. So if you see it only in English on the homepage, you can have the rest of the management scheme translated in French and Spanish later on. So please don't hesitate to select the language of your choice. And as we are continuously updating and adding more information and new content, there is a little bit of delay in the translation. Later on, we will talk about all the updates that we have done recently. And please keep in mind that it's, yes, ongoing work, and we're continuously updating the toolbox. So on the homepage, you have first a box, a search box where you can directly search the content using keywords. So you can either type a keyword directly in this field and hit search. And you can also filter by management scheme and select a peculiar management scheme before you search for a word or an element. Also, you can access the different management scheme from the home page directly. And so you hit the arrow on the management scheme that interests you. I will show you now, just as an example, how it works in the management scheme for pesticides. So I click on the arrow, and there you have some text explaining the management scheme, what it is about, and you have a list of elements. These elements are all the activities that are necessary to set up the most cost-efficient management scheme for pesticides. And you can see that for limited resource for your country, you have 4 key elements, and the other elements are non-compulsory for a cost-efficient management scheme with limited resource. On the right side, I can change the level of resource available. And let's say I will select medium resource. And there you will see that you have more key elements that are necessary for a management scheme for pesticide when you have medium resource. And if you select high resource, you will see that you have all the elements that are key for a management scheme for pesticide when you have high resource. You can see also that you have a drop-down list here where you can directly jump from one management scheme to another. So let's say I would like to have a look at the industrial chemicals management scheme. And so there again, I have some text explaining what this is about, and also saying, be careful, you can also have some information useful in the classification and labeling management scheme, for example. And then you have the list of elements that are separated in different lists, the technical elements, the functional elements, and you can select the one of your choice. Let's say I would like to implement information data elements. And for this activity, I have an explanation, and I can see that there is 3 tasks: the collection of the data, the storage of the data, and then the dissemination. And so it is immediately displayed below. I have the explanation of the implementation steps, which are data collection, data storage, and each time you have the list of tools and guidance documents that are relevant, that will help you implement the activity. So if you want to check if the tool is interesting to you, you can just hit the plus box here, and you will see a description with some summary of the documents, and a link that will lead you directly to the documents outside of the IOMC Toolbox. And so this allows you to have a look at the relevance of the document for you without having to download the full PDF or having to go to the external website. Just have a quick glance with the description. So once you have followed all the implementation steps, we remind you that there are other elements that are relevant for a cost-effective industrial chemicals management scheme. and you have all the links so that you can continue your navigation to the other elements. I will now come back to the little right box here, where you can see this little icon with an I and 11. And this is for additional information pages that will appear while you navigate in the management scheme. The industrial chemicals management scheme had a lot of new, more information pages, and you can see how everything can relate to another with some extra information outside the navigation. So let me get out of here. Sorry. Up. Then what else? There is also the possibility to download the IMC Toolbox. So if you have a poor connection and you want to work offline, you just hit the downloads here, and it will allow you to navigate offline. And when I come back to the home page, I would like to show you also the toolkits, which are really part of this project. It's not only about this IMC Toolbox webpage, it's really about guidance documents, drafting new documents, and also adding toolkits, which are also available directly through the homepage here. So for the moment, we have 6 toolkits that have been developed by the different participating organizations. We have the FAO Pesticide Registration Toolkit, the OECD Environmental Risk Assessment Toolkit, the UNIDO Chemical Leasing Toolkit, the UNIDO Innovative Approaches for the Sound Management of Chemicals and Chemical Waste Toolkit, the UNIDO Green Chemistry Toolkit, and the WHO Human Health Risk Assessment Toolkit, which is at the moment in maintenance. So each time you have a small text explaining what the toolkit is about, and then you have the link to directly go to the toolkit, which is really additional information, and it's really important to go and have a look. It's complementary from the IMC Toolbox. Then you have the Save the Date section, and this is where you can visualize all the past training events, webinars, workshops that we have organized, but also the future ones. They appear here as soon as we have a date. If you are interested in participating in a training session, please don't hesitate to write to us, and we can organize something if you don't see anything interesting in here. And so each time you have a description of the event, and then a contact us email where you can just click on the link and have the information of the person to contact. Then you have the latest news. And here you can see, again, the introductory video, which you just have seen. We will update the tutorial video and the flyers. This is still in maintenance. We have to update these, as well as the management scheme for industrial chemicals, which is currently in maintenance. So just please have some patience. It should be back up within the next days. So I think I did a quick tour, and I will now give back the floor and be available for questions at the end of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Valerie. I'd like now to pass to the WHO, who are going to present on the roadmap to strengthen the health sector role in the sound management of chemicals. Kirsten, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kay, for giving me the floor. And hello, everyone. My name is Kirsten Gutschmidt. I'm in the unit which is called Chemical Safety and Health at WHO, which is in the Department of Environment, Climate Change and Health at WHO in Geneva at its headquarters. And in my brief intervention, I will talk about information tools in the toolkit related to public health and health issues. So, I mean, it is very well known that the sound management of chemicals involves many sectors, among those environment, labor, health, and so on and so forth. And for each of the sectors, nearly we have a counterpart international organization, which forms part of the IOMC, dealing with the different issues within that sector. And of course, when it comes to health, it's the World Health Organization who has the global mandate to improve health worldwide. And the World Health Assembly, the governing body of the World Health Organization, requested WHO in 2016 to develop in consultation with member states and other relevant stakeholders a roadmap outlining concrete action to enhance health sector engagement towards meeting the second goal for the sound management of chemicals and contributing to the relevant targets of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So that was in 2016, and a year later, countries and the Secretariat, the WHO, presented the chemicals roadmap to the World Health Assembly, and the World Health Assembly approved the roadmap in 2017. And it's applicable to member states at all stages of development, and as well as a broad range of stakeholders. So what is the chemical roadmap now? So it provides, I mean, the main aim of the chemical roadmap is to enhance the role or the role of the health sector in the sound management of chemicals. So basically, the tools I'm talking about now, which you can find through the IOMC Toolbox, are aimed mainly at the health sector, but it can be of interest to other sectors as well, of course. And in the roadmap, we have action items which we want the health sector to put forward in order to fulfill its role in the sound management of chemicals. And they're falling into four action areas. It's to deal with the risks of chemicals, it's to have a better understanding of the health impacts of chemicals, but also to improve institutional capacities, for example, to deal with chemical accidents, but also to play a leadership role to enhance health issues in development of chemical-related policies, for example. And within each of the area, we have sub-areas, which are mentioned below. And all of this is, of course, a contribution to the sound management of chemicals and the Sustainable Development Goals, as mentioned before. And we have basically four sheets only with a number of actions. And to give you an idea about how it looks like, these are the actions we want countries to put forward when it comes to reducing the health risks of chemicals. Or chemical exposure. And there we have the action items, and then it also identifies whether these should be implemented by the member states, by the Secretariat at WHO, for example, developing authoritative national guidelines, or by all stakeholders, including member states, but intergovernmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, industries, or others. So this gives you an idea about how the action items are being presented in the roadmap. And altogether, as I said, we have 4 key action areas, and therefore we have 4 sheets with action items, which and to about 60 action items. So now countries can go through this list and identify actions they need to implement. But then the next question is, okay, we know what we should be doing, but how do we do it? So where do we find the guidelines or guidance or tools of how to implement these actions? And that is where the IOMC Toolbox comes in. And let me just go and share with you the screen. So I'm now in the IOMC Toolbox. So, and as Valerie said, there are different schemes in the IOMC Toolbox dealing with different aspects of chemical management. Among those is a scheme which is dealing with the public management of chemicals and the WHO Chemicals Roadmap. And if you click there, then first you have 2 entry points. One is about the public health management of chemicals, and the other one is directly related to the chemicals roadmap. So let me just, because I started dealing with introducing the chemical roadmap, just let me click there. The first thing is you get access to the roadmap and also to a workbook dealing with the roadmap. So the workbook guides you through a procedure whereby you identify the priorities within the roadmaps which you would like to implement into in your country. And it helps you also to develop the work plan and communication plans. But after that, you enter the area with the major action areas, as I said, risk reduction. And here we have, by all actions in the roadmap, we have listed the available guidelines and tools prepared by IOMC participating organizations, but mainly these are really WHO guidelines. So for example, to establish health promotion and protection programs. If you go there, you get material. For example, we have a website at WHO which provides you all the material concerning the 10 chemicals of major public health concern: lead, mercury, pesticides, arsenic, and so on and so forth. But we have also other guidelines, children's environmental health, for example. So all what is needed to establish promotion protection program, and which provides information to inform these programs. So then we have information about on hospital care waste. We have guidelines on this, for example. And if you go back up, and one of the important things is knowledge and evidence. We believe that the health sector has a particular role in doing human health risk assessments, inform other sectors about risks to health, about related to chemicals. And here we have all the information on harmonized methods, tools, and approaches, for example, of methods which are applied and also promoted by WHO to undertake, for example, risk assessment. Especially here we have harmonized global approaches to chemical risk assessment, the Human Health Risk Assessment Toolkit, which has been revised and needs to be updated, and so on and so forth. So we have basically information and tools listed against all the 60 action items in the roadmap. The other entry point is about the public health management of chemicals, and there the information which is available or the tools which are available by IMC participating organizations are classified, or they are presented under different headings. So I mentioned, for example, before, we have information on chemicals of major public health concern. And here are these chemicals. And for example, if you look at mercury, we have all the information on mercury listed here. And there are quite a few documents prepared by nearly all of the IMC participating organizations. So let me go back to my presentation. Okay, anyhow, I wanted. So what I wanted to say is, if you're interested or involved in health-related work when it comes to the sound mention of chemicals, the roadmap of the WHO provides you some guidance of what action items should be implemented. And then the IMC Toolbox is the main reference where you would find the guidelines in order to be able to implement the actions in the roadmap. Okay, thank you very much. By having said that, I would like to get the word back to Kate.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. I'd now like to pass the floor to Beatrice Grenier from the Food and Agriculture Association, who's going to present some slides about the FAO Pesticide Registration Toolkit. Over to you, Beatrice.
Thank you, Kay. Let me share my screen. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. So my name is Beatrice Grenier, and I work in the Pest and Pesticide Management team of FAO. And thank you for the opportunity to be with you all today. Thank you for the OECD for hosting this event, and for UNITA and other IOMC organizations to coordinate all that. And last but not least, thank you to the EU for financially supporting this important activity. So I see there's quite a number of people with us today, so it's encouraging to see that there's a high interest in the IOMC Toolbox. So as FAO, we are part of IOMC and in chemicals management, but as far as chemicals relate to pesticides, so the products used in the agriculture sector. So next is where to find pesticide related information in the IOMC Toolbox. Well, in two places. First, among the toolkits, and I'll come back to that in few details, in further details later on. And secondly, as the management schemes, as Valerie already mentioned and demonstrated a little bit, there's the national management schemes for pesticide included in the toolbox. So just a few words about this national scheme for pesticides. It's where you will find references to most FAO guidance documents related to pesticide management, all those that are related to the FAO-WHO International Code of Conduct on Pesticide Management. So now I will focus more on the toolkit, the FAO pesticide registration toolkit. So this is a toolkit that is focusing on registration. In contrast, the scheme I was just mentioning is about all the stages of the pesticide life cycle, while this toolkit is about the registration part of the pesticide life cycle. So it's really it's targeted to an audience which are the pesticide registration and evaluation staff. And for countries with limited resources, whether human, technical, and financial, for carrying out the pesticide evaluation. Because our starting point for developing this toolkit was the fact that, well, in most OECD-like countries, there's hundreds or thousands of people dedicated for pesticide evaluation and registration. While a survey we did a few years ago showed that in low and middle income countries, there's maybe only one person or two or three who deal on a daily basis with pesticide and possibly on top of other responsibilities. So that's really, we try to really target the content, so focus the content to the information that is really needed to be able to register or to take a decision to register a pesticide. So this toolkit is about, it assists registration staff in making informed decision. So it makes existing information relevant for registration staff at their fingertips. So everything is gathered in one place. Provide guidance about key registration procedures and methods in a quite interactive manner. And it also creates a basis for capacity building of pesticide registration staff. So once you are familiar with the tools, then you can also train and have your colleagues use the toolkit. So what it is and what it is not? Well, it's a decision support system for pesticide registration staff in developing countries. So it can be seen as an online registration handbook for daily use. But what is important to keep in mind is it's not an automated system for evaluating pesticides, in a sense that it will not give pesticide registrar the answers whether to authorize or not a pesticide. I mean, the evaluation still have to be done at the country level. So it's really about providing regulators, registrar with options in a practical way. It's pretty easy, friendly, user-friendly. It's open to everyone, so it's really accessible. There's no need to register. Everyone it's a public information. So the main element of the toolkit, if I can just quickly present that, there's three main parts. The first part is about registration tools. So it's not pesticide specific. It's more about the processes, the evaluation methods, the strategies that are applicable, usable for pesticide evaluation. And another part is about information sources. So this is more pesticide specific. And it provides, in one place, it provides links to lists of pesticide properties, whether they are registries or whether they are evaluated in some specific pesticides are evaluated in other countries or banned in other countries or under certain conventions, examples of labels, etc. And then another part is about special topics, and here we put develop a little bit more the topic of highly hazardous pesticides and also of public health pesticides, and we do that together with WHO. So there's also some functionalities. I'm not going into the detail now. So it's well, as an online tool, it's it's really work in progress. So we update it with new technical information, new links, etc. And we developed some new modules as well when we have feedback from the users, because we do a lot of training with countries or with the region. And we are pleased to have the toolkit as elected last year as ADG SD good practice. So it's a recognition that is contribution to the achievement of the SDGs. Just to give you an idea of the latest development. So last year we've developed a new tool on registration criteria. So it's we try to define and to give example from certain countries or region about the criteria and along with the risk assessment methodology and policies that are applied by authorities to make when making a decision to register or to not register a pesticide. So it's all about all those legislative criteria that are that we also call protection goals, dealing for the moment in the toolkit about human health risks, occupational and dietary risks, and also environmental risks for certain topics. So we've included the information from Australia, Canada, China, EU, and the USA, so that others can also get information about what they are doing. And another example is another new tool on soil, focusing on soil organisms. So basically it's how to assess pesticide risks to soil organisms. So not going into details, but it's basically we provide information about data requirements, as guidelines, risk assessment methods, and other and possible mitigation measures around the topic of assessment of the risk to soil organisms. So if you want to know more about the toolkit, well, you can just try it out. There's a number of videos as well that explain different sections of the toolkit. So it's easy to visit it. So thank you very much. I've just put the web page of the toolkit itself. So thank you, and with that, I give you the floor back. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. Our next presentation is from the International Labour Organization, who's going to present on the improved Occupational Safety and Health Scheme. Over to you, Halshka.
Thank you so much, Kay. I hope you can hear me well. Great. I'm having some connectivity issues, so I'm going to keep off my video for now, but I will share my screen so you could see that. There you go. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. My name is Halshka Gracik from the International Labour Organization in Geneva. And I'll talk about the Occupational Safety and Health Management Scheme, where we are and how users can most benefit from where we are now, but also the coming updates. So just to give some of you, there's so many participants here. I don't know how many of you have a good background of what the ILO does. We are a specialized UN agency, unique because we cover the mandate of all rights at work issues, social dialogue, social protection, decent employment, etc. But also we're unique in that we work with very specific tripartite constituents. We work with governments, employers, and workers. And we hope that now in the process of updating our management scheme, we can be more specific to some of those constituent groups. So the way we work through mainly is our chemical conventions when we're talking about chemical safety and creating legal frameworks. So our two main conventions are the Chemicals Convention 170, as well as our Major Industrial Accidents Convention 174. So now to talk about how to use the toolbox and the safety and health scheme here. So I want to start off by saying that creating an occupational safety and health management system is a huge undertaking. It requires all of those stakeholders that I mentioned before, plus many more. And it takes many different steps. And so that's what we hope to communicate through this scheme and also provide the relevant resources in order for that to really take place. So you see here some of the key elements. And the first would be setting up that occupational safety and health authority. That's really the first step that we want to do, make sure that we have a competent authority in place that can implement the legal framework and then take us through the various procedures when it comes to setting up an occupational safety and health management system at the national level, which can then trickle down to the workplace level, which includes things like exposure issues, operational controls, more practical elements that really have to do with enterprise level actions. So I'll talk about one here, and that's safety data sheets. Safety data sheets are essential tools at the workplace level that provide information about chemical hazards, whether that's their identity, their classification, their precautions, and very importantly, emergency procedures. So we hope that in this key element of the scheme, users are able to understand how to develop those safety data sheets in the correct language and to use them at the workshop floor appropriately. So here we have a variety of links to those, and we hope to also update this soon in order to give a specific training course just on safety data sheets. So when it comes to training, I just mentioned that what's very important also when the ILO implements chemical safety at the workplace level is to ensure that we're not just providing the tools and resources, but we're backing that up with information and training. Workers have the right to know what chemicals they're dealing with. They have the right to know what are the best protection and preventative mechanisms. And therefore, we offer a number of different types of trainings that will be soon available on the Occupational Safety and Health Management Scheme. We have one that specifically targets small and medium-sized enterprises, which we know are really the majority of the enterprises that are using chemical hazards and that we know might have limitations when it comes to implementing either legal frameworks from the national level or workplace level standards, things like occupational exposure limits or providing PPE, et cetera. So this is particularly useful. Maybe there's some of us here that are part of those small and medium-sized enterprises, whether from the employer's or worker perspective, or creating national laws from the ministry level. So here you see that there's really particular elements about how to conduct risk assessments at the workplace, how to make sure that we're implementing key practices and procedures through having different committees that are hopefully using social dialogue, and also implementing those appropriate safety standards, making sure that truly the day-to-day operations of a facility that is using hazardous chemicals can be safe, can be healthy, can uphold the rights of workers. So coming soon, we'll be updating the OSH management scheme. I'm looking forward to giving more information on when we have this available, because here you see that we'll have a breakdown, specific entry points for governments, usually ministries of labor or otherwise, employers and their organizations, as well as workers and their organizations. So here will be very specific information on how these different groups can act in their own spheres of influence in order to make sure that these very important elements are in place. We'll also be including up-to-date references to a lot of our tools, resources, training kits. Here you see a number of new publications we have on chemicals in the world of work that are designed to really give priority action advice to those stakeholders and make sure that the world of work is well represented when it comes to international chemicals management. Here I want to highlight one new tool that will be very useful, especially if there's medical practitioners among us. We have a new tool that has been 10 years in the making, led by a number of experts around the world. It provides diagnostic and exposure criteria for occupational diseases that are caused by more than 40 different chemical agents. There's also guidance notes that are prepared for different disease types, whether those are cancers or respiratory diseases or otherwise. And this is very essential for ensuring that there's recognition of diseases that are caused by chemicals, not only for compensation, but also for proper data collection, data management, making sure we know the most recent trends when it comes to what kind of chemical diseases, what kind of diseases that different chemicals compose, especially when we're looking to emerging risks, new chemicals on the market, and following those trends for different countries all around the world. So I hope that this can be useful, and this will also make a specific element of our new occupational safety and health scheme. So thank you very much for that. That's just an overview of where we are, and more importantly, where we're going. And I hope to be back with you all soon to provide more information on how this new scheme will look. So thank you so much, Kay. Thank you to everyone here, and thanks for the organization.
Thank you very much, Halshka. Our next speaker is from UNEP, and he's going to talk on the guidance of chemicals control. Pierre Kiblet, are you there? Yes, Pierre,
yes,
over to you.
I'm here, and I'm just waiting in order to be able to share my screen. Halshka, I think you need perhaps to get off.
Halshka, I think you need to minimize your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Kay, and thank you, OECD. Thank you, of course, EU, for providing us, providing UNEP an opportunity this afternoon to present to you a set of guidance that reflect, we hope, the usefulness of the toolbox that we have developed with the support of the Ministry of Environment of the government of Sweden and their chemicals agency, CHEMI. This is the UNEP set of guidance to assist government in establishing or improving their chemicals control. The goal of the guidance is to assist governments towards establishing or improving their chemicals control. Its objective is to support decision makers in their efforts to establish legal frameworks for chemicals control and the work of government officials involved in building government capacity for chemicals control. It complements the LIRA guidance that was published in 2015 on the development of legal and institutional infrastructures and measures for recovering costs of national administrations. The guidance is composed of an information documents on the benefits of chemicals control. This is targeted to decision makers, non-experts, in order to demonstrate the usefulness and the importance of developing chemicals controls and financing it. And this is accompanied by 3 guidance on chemicals controls. One's dealing with national authorities for chemicals control, its structure and funding of the national authority. The risk, second documents on the risk reduction tools for chemicals controls, and the how to enforce chemicals controls legislations. This is the 3rd guidance that we developed. With regards to the information documents on the benefits of chemicals controls, it defines chemicals controls. It provides a definition also where governments define manufacturers and importers' responsibility to implement preventive measures with basically classifications, labeling requirements, information on safe handling, bans and restrictions, production and use. The information documents aim at providing arguments to understand the multiple benefits and cost savings of proactive chemicals management. It demonstrates how chemicals controls is cost efficient, support resource efficiency, supports trade and interests in industry operations, saves lives and promotes human environment, how it protects environment, part of implementations of international obligations and commitment, and is necessary for sustainable national development. The guidance documents on the National Authority for Chemicals Control provide guidance on how to establish and maintain a national authority structure for chemicals control. What are the basic authority functions, the authority size, the staff expertise, budgeting, and funding options? It is very concrete and provide very practical information with regards to the activities to be undertaken, the suggested number of professional staff, and their capacities and the competence needed. It provides on the financing national administrations how to estimate a budget, the overview, the general considerations, the legal basis, which is also reflected in the LIRA guidance that accompanies that complements this set of guidance, the financing option, national budgeting processes, cost recovery, and so on, fee collection system, monitoring and enforcement of fees. The second document on the risk reduction tools is also very concrete and practical. It provides the concept and principles, what is the precautionary approach, polluters pays principles, extended producers responsibilities, how to prioritize your chemicals, and factors to take into account in choosing your instruments. It provides core risk reduction tools on classifications and labeling, bans and restrictions, as well as authorizations of pre-market approval systems, and also all a set of informations on additional tools related to economic instruments, informative instruments, public procurements, eco-labeling, awareness raising, substitutions, safer alternatives, dialogues with industries. The third document is on enforcement of chemicals controls legislations. The key considerations, it provides legal basis, including the mandate of the authority, how to secure cost recovery for enforcement, how to prioritize, focus on upstream actors, focus on classifications and labeling, develop and communicate clear requirements and responsibilities, education of inspectors, provide capacity and ensure that they are independent, and use of administrative and civil means to enforce compliance. So role of the inspectors, you will get information on the resource competencies, how to access to analytical competencies with regards to the enforcement objects, create a list, how to create a list of manufacturers and importers to be subjected to the requirement data sources, how to conduct the inspections, the various steps from the appointments to the follow-up, record keeping, checklist, all this will be available in this document. So very practical information. This has been included within integrated decision-making toolkits that we have developed in cooperations with WHO Regional Office in Africa through financing from GEF on the African ChemOps to better predict, prevent, reduce, in order to better observe, inform, and act. This is basically a integrated decision-making tools that includes this institutional strengthening and infrastructure component, but link it to how to better observe in gathering all the data, health and environment data, in order to translate them into economic tools with cost of inactions and with vulnerability calculators, two calculators, one on the cost of inactions, one on vulnerability impact to better prioritize calculator. And this will be very useful. It's not yet in the toolbox as it is a work in progress, but we are sure that in the coming months, we will be able to include that within a perhaps environmental toolkits sections that will gather all this available set of very useful guidance and information. You will have the privilege to have Noro Hasina from Madagascar, representing Madagascar, who will make a presentation on the experience they've had with the implementation of their African ChemOps at the national level. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Our next presentation and the final one of this session is from UNIDO about the Green Chemistry Toolkit. So I'd like to invite UNIDO, please.
Hi, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can. Just put it in presentation mode. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Hello, everyone. My name is Hala. I am working in the Materials and Chemicals Management Division of UNIDO. I am very happy to be here today to talk about the Green Chemistry Toolkit of the IOMC Toolbox. It is not hard to see examples of chemical pollution around us these days. 350,000 is the number of registered chemical compounds for use, and only a tiny fraction of these have been assessed for safety. The latest research published last month by a group of international scientists has pointed out that chemical pollution has passed a safe limit for humans. We are facing an urgent call for changes in our relationship with nature and chemicals. Against this background, the idea of green chemistry was developed in the 90s with the aims to eliminate pollution by improved design rather than treatment and disposal of waste. If treatment and disposal are to remove toxic materials from the environment, green chemistry prevents toxic materials from being available in the environment and in our life in the first place. So green chemistry is the design of chemical products and processes that reduce or eliminate the use and generation of hazardous substances. It aims to mitigate climate change and reduce impacts of poor chemicals and waste management on the environment, human health, and our economy. So in order to give the public much needed information about this relatively new concept, UNIDO and the Center for Green Chemistry and Green Engineering at Yale University, based in America, have partnered to develop the freely accessible Green Chemistry Toolkit.
Sorry, you're not in view mode. We can only see your first slide and your desktop.
I see. Sorry. Stop sharing the screen and share it again. So to go forward, back to the start.
Now it works. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. So green chemistry, as I said, is a design. It's focused on the new design of chemical products rather than elimination and remove of waste. Green chemistry is to mitigate climate change and strive to alleviate the impacts of poor chemicals and waste management on the environment, human health, and the economy. So in order to populate this idea to the public, UNIDO and the Center for Green Chemistry and Green Engineering at Yale University has developed this Green Chemistry Toolkit. This provides concise and up-to-date materials and access to a network of experts in this field for everyone to deepen the understanding of green chemistry and its benefits. It helps people become themselves green chemistry facilitators and disseminate the latest information, technologies, examples to accelerate the greening of chemicals production and uses. This can help us design products and manufacturing processes that give us what we need without the undesired pollution, health risks, and inefficiencies. Through interactive and multilingual online materials, including reading lists, exercises, practical case studies, quizzes, educational videos, this kit will provide a holistic and transdisciplinary understanding of green chemistry so that one can explain the role of chemicals in our economy, or summarize the 12 principles of green chemistry, or analyze different approaches to chemical design, or discuss the advantages and disadvantages of various processing feedstocks, and particularly identify environment-friendly chemicals alternatives in replacement of toxic ones in various sectors like cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, electronics, textile, food, and so on. So who can use this toolkit? It is for everyone in the public and private sector who wishes to have a clean and safe production and products to use to protect the health and well-being of themselves, of the family, and of our future. So if you are policymakers, business owners, chemical experts, engineers, student, or researcher, you can definitely learn more than one thing about this topic from this toolkit. To access the toolkit, please go to greenchemistry-toolkit.org. The web-based toolkit provides 2 training options. One is a 1-day introductory course and a 4-day in-depth training. Currently, the toolkit is available in English. However, you can visit the website again in 2 months to explore the toolkit in French, Spanish, Russian, and Arabic. On the screen, you can see an example of how the course is set up. You can choose, you can follow different materials throughout the days, and also to download the materials if you don't have very good internet connection. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at UNIDO, and we look forward to seeing you on the Toolkit website and also the IOMC Toolbox. Together, we can accelerate green chemistry for sustainable development. I would like to thank everyone for the time and for the collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lei. And that nicely brings a conclusion to this session. If you do have any questions, don't forget them. Please note them down, because we'll have a question and answer session towards the end of the interventions. Now, the next part of this special workshop and launch event is going to explore countries' experiences using the IOMC Toolbox that they've had in either setting up or improving their national management of chemicals. And I'm delighted to be able to invite a few speakers here today to talk with their experiences. And the first one is Dr. Norohasina Rakotoarison from Madagascar, from the Ministry of Public Health. The floor is yours.
Bonjour à tous. Je suis donc Norohasina Rakotoarison, chef du service de santé et environnement au sein du ministère de la Santé publique. Je demande à ce que l'organisateur fasse la présentation parce que j'ai une très mauvaise qualité de connexion. Et si c'est possible, ce sera donc à l'organisateur de partager l'écran. Et moi, je suis et j'explique donc ce que Madagascar a vécu. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, bien sûr. Vous voulez que je partage votre présentation, c'est ça?
Oui, tout à fait. En fait, je continue toujours, n'est-ce pas?
Oui, attendez.
Vraiment...
Je vais vous montrer. Là, vous seriez censé voir normalement. Est-ce que c'est tout bon?
Oui, c'est très bien, je vois l'écran.
En grand écran?
Oui, tout à fait. Merci beaucoup.
Très bien.
C'est vraiment avec un honneur et un grand plaisir donc, que nous allons partager en 3
Very happy to be able to share the slides explaining the experience of Madagascar about the use of the IOMC tools, which have been elaborated by UNEP.
Comme contexte, Madagascar, il y a beaucoup de départements ministériels.
In Madagascar, there were many ministerial sections which are concerned by the good management of industrial and chemical products all along their life cycle. But what was shown is that we intervene in silos in an isolated way. There is no coordinated legal framework. Technicians and researchers do not have enough skills or training to manage the chemical products all along the life cycles, and we don't have a proper database on chemical products and their health impacts and environmental health impact. Madagascar is one of the countries which is to be supported by the different international organizations to create a favorable environment for an observatory for the good management of chemical products. Next slide, please.
Donc, nous avons donc utilisé les guides
We have used the guides set up by the UN, in particular the one on the recommendations and orientations for a national authority in charge of chemicals, what should be the structure, how to fund it. There's also guidelines about how to apply the legislation for chemical product management, and also tools that can be used to reduce hazards due to chemical products. We used these guidelines through our legislative framework and monitoring structures to carry out an assessment, a vulnerability assessment, and the cost of not acting with other tools which we developed during this project. We are currently implementing the different recommendations. And presently, the observatory is becoming operational. That is ongoing. We are also establishing a legal framework for the proper management of chemicals. We are also updating our customs classification, and that is also ongoing. We have developed a national strategy for communication with an awareness campaign which will be implemented. We also have a training guide. We will have one. We are working on the traceability of chemicals and making this mechanism operational. This is ongoing too. We are drawing up a risk mapping that is also ongoing for this year, and we are establishing a monitoring and surveillance mechanism for chemicals, and we are identifying innovative funding for the observatory, and that is also ongoing. And this is my last slide. What are the main challenges which we are meeting for the use of these different tools? I discovered during the presentation of the various tools, I'm discovering which are the tools which are relevant for us. So one of the main challenges for us in Madagascar is to be aware of the existence of these different tools and to know how to use them to improve the management of chemicals all along their life cycle here in Madagascar. Thank you.
Merci à vous, Norasina. Thank you very much. Now we're going on to introduce a video from the Chief Executive Officer of the National Cleaner Production Centre in Sri Lanka, Samantha Kumarasena.
I am Samantha Kumarasena, Chief Executive Officer of National Cleaner Production Centre. We were fortunate to join with this IOMC Toolkit training project. We selected 2 areas for studies mainly. Those are green chemistry and chemical leasing. In fact, NCPC Sri Lanka had done some projects in green chemistry as well as in chemical leasing. But for this training program, as national level trainers, we invited the stakeholder organizations as well as the academia to participate and train as the trainers. So those parties did not have much experience and exposure into green chemistry as well as for chemical leasing. So therefore, this training program is very, very useful for them to gain first-hand information about the subject as well as the experience of the international trainers. When we select the participants for this course, we picked up the right stakeholder organizations and competent trainers who can train the others, as well as we added an element that we invited academia from the departments in chemistry and chemical engineering. So then, those national trainers obtain a very important training. The international trainers who conducted this training shared their valuable experiences in those 2 areas. So therefore, it was very useful as well as it was very easier for our national experts to understand and get trained in the subjects. It was evident in the next local level training. So the national experts who were trained were able to successfully train another 26 people, again selected from vital organizations. They were also coming from stakeholder organizations, universities, freelance consultants, and from the industries. So then we were able to train a critical mass of people who can take these 2 subjects forward in the country. In fact, we learn from those trained personnel, they are very, very enthusiastic to implement those concepts. They will work with the industries and then come out with the success stories. So regarding those areas. Then academia were very keen on including these subjects into the university curricula. So then they will be able to train the next generation. In fact, this training course, which was conducted in a very good cordial environment, though it is in online training, so was very useful for our people to ask questions, interact, then learn from the experts. So therefore it was a very enthusiastic learning exercise. Other than the subject, we learned how to conduct such a successful training. Particularly the Dr. Branko and the team conducted that one in a very, very interactive way. So therefore everybody felt comfortable as well as very good learning experience for them. For the other countries, I would like to mention that when you learn these things, in fact we have to identify the critical trainers who can take it forward, particularly inclusion of the academia as well as inclusion of the freelance consultants will be quite helpful to disseminate these subjects to the other people. So therefore, that will be a very important part when we develop the capacity at national level in the subjects. Thank you.
And our final video today is from Tjandra Sedai from the Indonesian Cleaner Production Center.
Hi, I'm Chandra from Indonesia. On behalf of the Indonesian Cleaner Production Center, or ICPC, we conducted the Indonesian National Training on IOMC Toolbox for decision-making in chemical management phase 3 from design to action. It was held from 25th November 2021 until 13 January 2022. It was 8 half-day meetings with a total of around 25 hours. The participants from Indonesia were 51, with 28 females and 23 males. They are from different institutions, 17 from government institutions, and 17 from universities, 7 from industries, 6 from research institutions, and 2 from NGO or consultants. Due to the pandemic, we ran the training fully online. We were not able to carry out the face-to-face meeting. In the beginning of the training, we asked the participants regarding the chemicalizing and green chemistry term. Around 82% of participants were barely heard or never heard of chemicalizing. But about half of the participants having enough knowledge on the green chemistry. However, about IOMC Toolbox, UNIDO chemicalizing toolkit, and green chemistry toolkit, almost 90% of participants were barely heard or never heard of. At the end of the training, we did the evaluation. It comes up that around 95% of participants have more understanding on the IOMC Toolbox, chemicalizing, and green chemistry toolkits. Moreover, the most favorite topic is the green chemistry, followed by the chemicalizing, and the last one is the IOMC Toolbox. And participants learn that it opens new perspective to them. And also the material is related to their duties in their office. And also it gives a new knowledge on the environmental friendly industries. And the advice to the other country who would like to run a similar training, we learned that the online training is not the best one. Please choose the face-to-face training if it is possible. More time on walk through the toolkit and the toolbox, so it will be beneficial to the participant. We cannot leave them to learn it themselves. And also the case studies and best practices should be presented and discussed more rather than presented only the theoretical materials. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank again Madagascar, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia, who have not only explained how they've used the toolbox, but also raised some of the issues and benefits of that toolbox and how it can be implemented in country. Our next session is going to speak about how the past and future activities of the IOMC Toolbox and the webinars, and how people attending this call can participate. So I'm not quite sure who's going to take the floor, but if you'd like to take the floor.
Kerstin Gutschmidt speaking from WHO. I will guide through the presentation. Okay, is that okay?
That's absolutely fine. Over to you, Kerstin.
Okay. Yeah, you already gave a very brief introduction. This is about activities which are planned and how to best participate in some of the activities which are provided by the IOMC Toolbox and the IOMC Toolbox project. Okay, so when it comes to future activities, I mean, we're talking on the one hand side of the maintenance of the IOMC Toolbox, and of course we want to be sure that latest guidelines and tools are included in the toolbox, and it's regularly updated and up to date in general. So many of our activities relate to updating the toolbox on a regular basis. Furthermore, some activities are being included which are broadening the toolbox, meaning adding new management schemes, new topics into the toolbox. And we also would like to make the toolbox more accessible, meaning providing the tools in other languages, for example. So there are some efforts on the way to translate tools and even toolkits. And here, as mentioned before, FAO is updating the National Pesticide Management Scheme to be consistent with the new developments of the International Code of Conduct. But future activities will be on the development of new tools, which will be included in the toolbox on the globally harmonized classification and labeling system, biopesticides, illegal trade of pesticides, and public health pesticides. Halschka from ILO mentioned the ongoing update of the Occupational Safety and Health management scheme, and OECD is working on the scheme on best available techniques and provides better information, new activities, and other things. Other organizations, like Pierre already mentioned a little bit in passing, like from UNEP, they add the tools which have been developed as part of the African ChemOps project, and ChemOps stands for Integrated Health and Environment Observatory and Surveillance Information System. So these tools will be included in the toolbox. UNIDO, and Thor mentioned that before, will translate the green chemistry toolkit into other UN languages. And we at WHO, we have added the entry point for the health sector, and we complement that with a training course. And in general, we will continue updating the health schemes as well. Besides the toolkit, we have, as part of the so-called IOMC Toolbox project, we have complementary training activities. And since the onset of the current phase of this project about 3 years ago, we have been conducting 35 events, either training events or promotional events that could have been virtual or face-to-face during the COVID times when it was still possible. And they were aimed at countries, at regions, or at a global audience like this webinar, for example. And here you see some past training activities in countries and ongoing future activities in green. So WHO, for example, we plan training activities in Oman, maybe in other countries like Tunisia, Egypt, Egypt and Iraq. Then OECD is continuing working in the Philippines and Kenya, and UNIDO, we heard about that earlier, plan to continue their training in Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And then there is training planned on pesticides in Zimbabwe as well. So there are quite a few activities which are coming up. As I mentioned before, besides targeted training at countries and regions, we provide global, or we organize global webinars of the type of today. The next one is of this type is on the WHO revised human health risk assessment. So you can sign up if you want. Information is on the screen, but also on the website. But I know that FAO, for example, organizes a workshop which is already on the 14th of February. Anyhow. So when it comes to the training activities in more detail, UNIDO, for example, will have in-depth session of training of trainers on green chemistry, on the green chemistry toolkit and the chemical leasing toolkit in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and Vietnam, in partnership with national cleanup production centers. I mentioned that in passing before, and then also the translations into other UN languages of the green chemistry toolkit. When it comes to FAO, it's about the workshop I just mentioned before, from 14th to 18th of Feb, for national or regional pesticide registration staff and boards. And there participants learn on how to navigate and make optimal use of the pesticide toolkit. And this training has already been conducted before in more than 70 countries and reaching out to more than 450 people in the English, French, and Spanish-speaking world. And further activities depend also a little bit on funding available. So OECD is continuing also to work in Morocco on the evaluation and registration of chemical substances, and providing training in Kenya and the Philippines. And WHO, I think it's the next, no, there's no WHO slide here. As I said, WHO is organizing a web-based training course, which will be made available later this year. So how to express your interest in training. So depending upon the training you would be interested in, I mean, first is maybe to assess the problem, the chemicals management problem in your country. The next step would be probably to identify the tools in the toolbox which you would like to implement. And then the following step would be to approach one of the focal points depending upon what tools in the toolbox you would like to implement and for which you would like to get assistance when it comes to training. So please be free to contact any of the focal points here on this slide. And that was my last slide, and back to you, Kay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm very conscious that we've now hit the official end of this particular session. But I would also like to, if people can stay a little longer, and you do have a pressing question, if you'd like to raise your hand now, maybe we can field just one or two questions. You're also welcome to put any questions into the chat. I don't see any questions. If not, then I would just like to reiterate my thanks to all the speakers. Oh, I see one. Oh no, somebody has come and gone on the questions. Yes, sorry. Is it Omar Saleh? Would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you, Kay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the speakers. I appreciate the presentation. It was really interesting and eye-opening. I just have a question. So us as an RSS and CPU center in Jordan, so we can just forward to any of the focal points so that if we see anything that fits our interest in terms of training for the toolkits.
Who would like to take that question? My understanding is yes, but Kirsten, would you like to take that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, this is how I understand it. I mean, then we start into a kind of negotiation process. So we don't guarantee training immediately. It's subject to funding and maybe other things, logistics and how we coordinate the things. But at least we can start the ball rolling and see whether we can, in the end, do training. But the first step is to contact one of the focal points.
All right. Thank you, Kirsten.
I see that Peter has a question.
Yes, thank you so much. Just a quick one. You said in case anyone has assistance, needs assistance in terms of training, in terms of are there possibilities of like seeing whether there are available funds that can support, like for example, the cleaner production of Uganda to implement such a program in the country? Thank you so much.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry, but I couldn't hear the whole question. Kirsten, maybe you had a better hear than me.
Yeah, in fact, it's about whether training can be provided or funding is available to provide training in Uganda on cleaner production centers. This is a particular question which should be addressed to UNIDO. UNIDO is really providing training for that purpose. And I propose either that UNIDO replies to it now already, or you contact UNIDO in the follow-up of this webinar.
Hi, this is Hoa from UNIDO. Thank you, Kirsten. Yes, indeed, Peter, can I contact you via email in the upcoming weeks so that we can talk about this opportunity? Would that be okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so
I don't know if Kay is still here. Oh, okay.
I think we lost Kay.
Yeah.
So who would like to take over from her?
I can take over, but because I know that Kirsten is having the last words of this event. And thank you so much to all for the questions. And if you want to have other chats on that, you can write to Unitar. I have put in my email address, so you can contact me. Please, Kirsten, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Isia. So I keep it very short. I really would like to emphasize the importance of the IMC Toolbox. It's really a great reference to easily access and identify all the guidelines or important guidelines which has been produced by international organizations who have a chemical safety program in place. And you have heard about what's in there today and what you can find there and who are the contributors. So it's not only that. I think the new version of the IMC Toolbox is also can be intuitively used and is user-friendly, and it provides some options we haven't really talked about. But you can save your findings, you can communicate your findings, and you can also communicate with the developers of the toolbox to make a contribution to its improvement even. And it is something which requires a lot of maintenance, and that is needed to keep it updated and relevant. And luckily, we have ensured financial support for the next 3-4 years. But at the same time, we have already a sustainability plan in place in case and when I'm talking we, the IMC organization, don't have external funding like right now from the European Union to maintain it. So this IMC Toolbox will last for at least another 5, 10, or not even longer years. So, and it will be updated regularly. We haven't talked so much about its problem-solving nature, but it doesn't allow only to identify the tools which countries would like to identify, but it also identifies the elements of management schemes which should be put in place. It has really this training component to it. So it's not only identifying the tools, it's also providing, the project at least providing training opportunities worldwide. So, and I think these were comments which I really wanted to re-emphasize. And having said that, I don't know if it's my role to close the meeting, but let me just say I want to thank the organizers for putting this together. I'd like to thank the speakers, and I also like to thank for the participants to attend and express their interest in this subject matter. Back over to you, Kay.
Kay having me in, she just sent me a message via phone. She's been thrown out of the internet. So let me just take the opportunity to say thank you to all of the IOMC organizations that were involved today in the organization of this webinar. I think it was very informative. I think it was very useful for everybody. And as you said, don't hesitate to contact anybody from IOMC organizations to get further information or inquire about possibilities for trainings or webinars or workshops in your country, in your organization, if you think it is something that will help you in your endeavors to improve your chemicals management system. So thank you all again. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you everybody who joined today. And we hope to talk to you again soon about next developments of the IOMC Toolbox. Thank you.